I keep doing that. I keep doing the I'm sorry. I did some. I got some good headway on a novel that I never finished, and I wrote a screenplay. And the screenplay is I actually had an old file of it. I found it in a backup on a CD a few years ago. I put it on Google Drive, so I did have it. I have an entire archive of old writing, and I read a little bit of it, and it's funny. It's a little dated because, it's 19 years ago and some of the technology has been updated a lot and things like that. But it's not great. It's a good pass, a good first pass, I would say. And it's about feature length. It's about 75 pages. I think 90 is the standard feature length. So it's almost a feature length screenplay that I wrote over a period of a couple of months. And I didn't really do anything with it. It just sat on my hard drive. I wasn't going to shop it around. I think one of the things that screenwriters should do, and I've heard this, is that they should have at least, 5 or 6 completed scripts and before shopping around, because, they might like your writing style, but they might not be liking that movie. They might ask you, what else you got? And you could show them something else. So I found it, and I was going through it, and then I was in my attic yesterday looking for something completely unrelated, and I pulled out the first feature that I wrote way back in 1996. And oh boy, is it bad. I wrote it for class. I think I got a B on it. I think the grade is somewhere in the book. Let me look. I have the actual screenplay. I'm looking at it right now. I don't know if the grade is in this copy. I had 2 copies. I put one in a binding notebook. I don't have the grade, but I'm pretty sure I have the graded copy in a folder somewhere. It's I got a B. So it's not a bad screenplay. It's a romantic comedy, and it's bad. It's good college writing by a guy who was 19 years old and had no idea how life really worked. But I've been reading my own bad work because, honestly, I have thought, what better way to get that muscle back that's been atrophied for years than to go back and start to rewrite your old material. So that's what I'm doing. I sat down yesterday and pulled up the script I wrote 19 years ago, and I pulled up Final Draft, which is the standard screenwriting software that I bought a few years ago for a class, and started writing. And I wrote, just a, first page, not a lot. I mean, it's a marathon, not a sprint. That's what writing really is. And it was like slipping on an old pair of shoes. And it was nice. So anyway, I don't see these being like movies I could make, at least not yet. The movie from 96, that first feature, I could see breaking up into a web series, if people still do web series, a YouTube kind of thing. But I see these gems of like diamonds in them waiting to be dug out of the cave wall. So I'm just trying to rewrite them and modernize them, maybe get them to the point where I'm comfortable sharing them with you. But mostly it's just for fun. But the thing is, I like to write, but I often never know where to start. Do I start with plot? Do I just write a sentence and build off of that with no plan whatsoever? In that era of me writing a lot back in 2002, I was listening to the book On Writing by Stephen King, and he likened writing to a sculptor delicately finding the story in a block of granite using a chisel. And he said plotting everything out was like using a jackhammer. Now, I don't know that I agree with that. Honestly, if you look at the lion's share of King's work, you'll see that his no plotting method has led to some really great lead-ups and some really crappy endings. Maybe a bit of plotting would help fix that issue. I don't know. Who am I to judge Stephen King's work? One of the screenwriters that I listened to, when asked about his writing process, was really quick to talk about getting to know your characters first. he writes with a partner, and he's written TV shows. He created the show 30-something. His name escapes me. It's Marshall something. And it's in the Bulletproof Screenwriting podcast, to give them a shout out. They won't hear this anyway. And he mentioned that he and his partner sit down and they just talk before they even sit down to write anything. And they talk and they get a feel for the people in their stories. Because if you get to know the characters, you'll know the stories, because the stories are nothing without the people who live them. If you don't know the people living the story, why bother telling it? Because structure, while that's important, it needs to come after you know who you are writing about and how they will react. And how they will react, there's a good read for you, to the circumstances you put them in. Essentially, and I wrote this at the bottom of my notebook, character comes first. The rest comes later. And this completely revolutionized my thinking. What can frustrate someone is not knowing the entire story before they start, and they give up before they even get started. I have file after file and notebook after notebook with half-begun stories that I gave up on because I really didn't know what to do with them. I was like a dog chasing a car. What would I do with it when I caught it? Anyway, there was a brief time that I started to sketch characters out, write about them in a small situation in order to get a bead on who they were. And that felt great. I knew who they were, at least a little bit. I just never put them into the stories that I wanted them to inhabit, either due to boredom or fear or busyness, or most likely laziness. And hopefully that will change. I don't really have a writing update this week. I did do some punching in the keys, but I spent the weekend away with my wife. And, when you do that, you don't want to bring the laptop with you. You want to focus on each other, and that's what I did. And like I said, I did rewrite that one small part of a scene from that old screenplay. I love the craft of writing. It's amazing. I can't wait to share some of it with you someday. But what do you think about the writing process? Is plot a jackhammer or a chisel? Is it both? You can let me know by sending me an email at peaceloveandrobotspod@gmail.com, or you can leave me a voicemail at 585-371-8986. When I hear from you, I just might share it on the next episode. Just remember, keep it clean. 4 out of 5 dentists agree that Peace, Love, and Robots is an excellent way to promote good teeth health.